6 weeks postpartum update. I definitely have so much like extra skin on my stomach, on my legs, really everywhere. I'm about 20 pounds down from when I delivered and 10 pounds up from pre-pregnancy weight. So from the front, definitely carrying like way more weight in my stomach and the side, and I can still flex and get some resemblance of abs that I think is like totally due to the fact that I worked out for basically my whole pregnancy up to 38 weeks. And then the back, there's still a little bit of muscle tone. I'm about to attempt my first workout, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I don't die. I'm gonna put some clips in here and then we'll see how fast and how long it takes for me to shred this and get back to pre-pregnancy body. Okay, I wanted to do like a sit down portion of this video and talk about my whole postpartum recovery from like weeks basically 0 through tomorrow will be 9 weeks postpartum, and I feel like I've done a lot of roller coaster through this whole thing, but I wanted to walk through just things that I noticed week by week and things that I never really expected as a first time mom. And for me, postpartum was so much harder than anything I dealt with for pregnancy, labor. All that stuff to me was just honestly really easy, and I was super lucky. Postpartum was a whole different vibe. Right after giving birth, I felt like wrecked. And if you watched our birth story, basically after I gave birth, I was so nauseous from lack of food that I was still like dry heaving, and I was basically like out for the count for roughly like 12 hours while Aaron took care of the baby. That sucked, but honestly, you're in so much pain. Like I could barely walk. I was like walking like grandma style through the hospital, like going to the bathroom and like trying to get back in bed. And that was just rough. And that probably lasted for like 3 days. By like day 5, I felt pretty good. And I'm the type of person where like if I feel good, I tend to overdo things because that's just who I am. So I started walking our dog and the baby by day 5. I was doing like really short, like 10-minute walks, just 1 walk a day, felt great. On day like 9, I ended up moving up and trying to do a 2-walk type of day, and it was horrible. I felt like I was in so much pain. I was bleeding way more, and I'll just caption this, like this whole video is probably gonna be like major TMI, but it's stuff that I went through and I like would want to look back and know about, so sorry. So day 9, totally started bleeding again. It was like really bright red, super uncomfortable. I was like in pain again and just feeling like crap. So I ended up dialing it way back, decided to do a couple days of just like no walks, nothing, resting, and I was totally good. Cool for about a week. Started building back up to my 1 walk a day, was feeling great. And this is like the period of like, I would say from like birth to 2 to 3 weeks of having a newborn are brutal. We were mainly, I guess I could say mainly I was sleep deprived because you really can't have your partner bottle feed. Well, if you're breastfeeding, you can't have your partner bottle feed, especially that early, because you're trying not to introduce any other like nipple confusion. So for me, I was waking up every 2 hours all night long, all day long, was just like wrecked from sleep. I was taking naps pretty much every day with the baby, like for several weeks. And then at like week 3, I noticed that I was starting to get like pain in my boobs when the baby was breastfeeding, and I didn't know why. And so I didn't do anything about it. And then after like 2 days of that, I was in so much pain. Like, I wish I could describe it in a way, but it literally felt someone was taking like razor blades to my nipples and like trying to saw them off. I was like teeth gritting, like the whole feeding her. I started to dread it. I did not want to do it. I was like really trying to power through, and I was like, something has to be wrong. Like we were doing great. So I ended up doing tons of my own research and thinking that I had thrush. And if you don't know what thrush is, I'll put like a little what it is basically medically wise, but it's basically a yeast infection. I have no idea how I got it, but I think I got it or she got it. And when one of you has it, you basically pass it back and forth unless both of you are treated. So this was like a huge setback, and I actually called my doctor and was like, I need to get an appointment for both the baby and for me ASAP because I can't do this. The baby was crying every time she fed. She was like super upset. It was just like such a nightmare and so deflating. So we both were on antibiotics at like week 3, and it was 2 weeks of antibiotics. So we did 2 weeks of antibiotics. Breastfeeding got better. It was great. And then Savannah started to sleep longer periods, which was amazing for me, but I was still in the period of like, your hormones and your boobs have not regulated yet. And so I didn't wake up and like drain my boobs, and then I got clogged ducts. That sucks too, because it basically feels like a bruise in your boob, and like I couldn't even like hold her without it feeling horrible. And so you have to like do whatever you can to feed her constantly on like the one boob where you have your clogged duct. That was like a whole process of trying to get it to like work its way out. Finally got clear through that, and this is now like roughly week 5, and I was going on a few walks. I don't know why. I started to feel like if you wear tampons, I basically felt like I put a tampon in wrong, and like it was like falling out. And so I got super freaked and Googled myself into oblivion and started to think that I had prolapse. If you don't know what prolapse is, the kind version of explaining it is basically you feel like your uterus has dropped, and really bad prolapse can mean like your uterus can literally come out of you. I was so nervous about this whole thing that I probably spent like 20 hours literally in the middle of the night while I was like feeding the baby, Googling prolapse, talking like to people on like Reddit about how the heck do I figure this out. But I knew that I had my 6-week appointment coming up, and like I was just like holding out for her to tell me that I didn't have prolapse. So that was a whole like other thing that I was just totally like down mentally about. Prolapse is one of those things that if you do have it, it's super hard to work out. If it's really bad, they'll actually make you put like it's basically like a circular thing that goes in you and holds everything up. And I just really beat myself up about the whole thing because I thought it was gonna have to totally change how I trained, and I just felt like I was never gonna get back to me. And so that was a whole process. I will say my number one tip, a side note, is if they tell you to take stool softeners from like the second you give birth and then like phase them out around week 2. I learned don't phase those out until like just week 6, just don't, because it makes your life a million times easier if you do, if you still take them. So that was one of the things I wish I did, because honestly going to the bathroom is just like super brutal if you tore. And I did have one tear. It wasn't really bad, but for me, like anything, I was just nervous about my stitches ripping. And so going to the bathroom never was a pleasant experience. It was honestly always like mentally traumatic. So when I get to my 6-week appointment, I wanted to like run through everything with her. She did tell me I did not have prolapse, which was like holly freaking hallelujah. She told me that like, yes, things are gonna be different. Like you did have a baby. I didn't realize like how different, but that's I guess like a whole personal thing. Like things are never gonna look the same. They're just not. They're just not. So she did clear me. I don't have prolapse, and she did tell me like my stitches were still there. I always thought stitches went away at like 2 to 3 weeks. They do not. I actually did not have my stitches dissolve until like week 7, and I don't know why. They just stuck around. I can now like finally say I feel like they're actually like gone and healed, and I don't notice them anymore, but I was feeling like the tear for a really long time. Just like going on walks and like literally anything, I could just feel like an uncomfortableness and like a ruggedness, if that makes sense. So at that point, she cleared me for working out, she cleared me for activities, she cleared me for everything, said like, do your thing. that's where you'll see it. I did put a clip in here before this of my first workout postpartum. That was brutal. Everything just feels so much heavier and slower. And despite working out my entire pregnancy, like pretty advanced through like week 38, I felt like a complete newbie. Like I had never worked out in my life. And so now I've been working out for 3 weeks. I've probably worked out about 4 times a week for the past 3 weeks. So I'll give you a body update now 3 weeks later so you can compare to my 6 weeks body update. Honestly, I really don't know if there's much of a difference. I have started counting macros again. I wanted to do this to make sure I'm actually hitting enough protein. I felt like I was really, really low on protein, and actually putting it into MyFitnessPal, I realized I am. If you don't know how to count macros and you're interested, I do have a video probably like 3 years old that I can link down below on how to do that. But this was like the most effective way for me to figure out, am I feeding my body what I need to keep my supply up and to make sure I'm not losing too much weight, and to make sure I'm like just doing what's best for my body and fueling it with what it needs. One of the other things that I did not know postpartum that was and still is a thing for me is postpartum night sweats. Those are crazy. So for probably 4 weeks, I basically slept on 2 towels in our bed. And like, I'm a person who runs cold. Like, I'm always cold. And I would completely like wake up drenched. Like if you put me in a shower and then like I got in bed without a towel drying myself off, like I was soaked. And it was disgusting. And like you basically have to like wake up and feed your baby and you're like all wet. Super gross. Get towels. So even now I just run so much hotter, and I've never been that way. Like even right now I feel like I'm sweating. Like I'm just hot all the time, and I still like I sweat way more in bed. Like my night sweats are still a thing, and now I'm like what 9 weeks out and I don't really know when that stops. The other thing is I finally realized now, probably in the last week or so, my supply has very much regulated. I was one of those people that had like an overactive letdown. If you don't know what that is, I'll put the little medical description here. Basically, I was like waterboarding my baby in the face every time I fed her. So there's really nothing that you can do about it. It's just how I was. My body oversupplied. Like I very, very quickly have a supply of probably like 300 ounces in my freezer. I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess, but it took forever for my boobs to just like chill out. Like drove me nuts. I still have to use like breast pads so that I don't leak through everything when I'm sleeping, because she sleeps like 7 to 8 hours a night right now straight, and I don't feed. So that's another issue. But before then, before I was regulated, I had to wake up even if she wasn't, or I would get a clogged duct. And I realized that after like the 2nd or 3rd time. I feel like that's pretty much everything that's going on with my body right now. Things honestly feel so much better. I'm feeling a lot more like myself. I was one of the people that was like super lucky. I never dealt with baby blues. I never had like postpartum depression. I thought that applied to everyone, and I was waiting for it. Never got it. Like, I don't know. I basically was on cloud 9 from like 24 hours after birth onwards. Totally in love with my baby, just feeling great. I never felt upset or sad or really anything, and I'm really, really lucky because I thought that I would, being as somebody who experienced anxiety before pregnancy. I thought that might be coming down the road for me, but I'm really, really lucky to say that I haven't. If you have, please talk to somebody, because I do know a lot of friends that have had it, that it has actually like made them not think more about having a 2nd child or a 3rd child because it, you know, affected them so much. I think that's it. I'm going to show you my 9-week body update. There's still so much extra skin. I'm really waiting for my skin to like tighten up. It hasn't yet. That's fine. I'm still just going to keep working out, keep counting my macros, keeping my supply up, keeping the baby happy. She is basically exclusively breastfed. We do give her 1 bottle, but it is breast milk, so She gets 1 bottle a night that Erin does in the middle of the night so I can sleep, because she wakes up at like 6 a.m. and I hate waking up at 6 a.m. So yeah, so I'll show you a little update and we'll go from there. Alright, so this is officially 3 weeks back at working out. Like I said, I'm still doing like 4 days a week right now. I definitely still have more extra skin in my stomach, and this is just relaxed and I can flex. Honestly, there's not a huge difference. On the side, you can definitely see like the extra skin. I don't really have stretch marks on my skin. It's just like my boobs and my butt, honestly, but not my stomach. So relaxing and flexing. I honestly wish I kept a lot more of the muscle definition that I had, especially because I worked out for most of my pregnancy, but you know, we're doing what we can. So I'm going to keep you guys updated as I work my way back to pre-pregnancy. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'm going to keep this going as long as I can as I work my way back. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but I'll keep you guys updated, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!